Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Thank you so much for being here. This video is going to be a little bit different from what I usually post on the channel, which is mainly like reading vlogs and wrap-ups and stuff like that. But today I thought it would be fun to film another book tag. The book tag that started my YouTube channel is the mid-year book freakout tag. And recently I have remembered about another book tag that's usually posted around this time of year, and that is the end of the year book tag. This was originally created by Ariel Bassett like 6 or 7 years ago, something like that. So I am going to use Ariel's questions in this video, and I will also make sure to link the original book tag that she posted in the description down below. So without any further ado, let's get started with the first question. And that is, are there any books you started this year that you still need to finish? Yes, I have some books that I want to finish by the end of the year. The first one is In These Hallowed Halls by a lot of people, including Olivia Blake and ML Rio. This is a Dark Academia short story anthology collection, and I have only read the first story in this one, and then I got distracted by some other books, so I didn't continue with this one. But because there are different stories in this book, I think it will take me a bit more time to just get through all of them. But this is one of the books that I want to finish by the end of 2024, just because I love Dark Academia and I am very curious to see where these stories will take me. Another book that I have started and not yet finished is The 13th Child by Erin A. Craig. I think I read like 104 pages of this one. In this book, we are following Hazel, and as the title suggests, she is the 13th child. Before she was born, her parents actually kind of realized that maybe 13 kids is a bit too much, so we can give this one for adoption, the 13th child, right? And when her mother was pregnant with Hazel, she was visited by 3 of the deities in the world of this book, and she got kind of like adoption offers from all of them, but the offer that was accepted by Hazel's parents was from the god of death. And the god of death promised that he will take care of this kid, right? 12 years later, we find out that Hazel is still living with her parents. She's raised by her parents and they are very abusive. Her siblings are also very toxic towards her. Everyone is treating her like she's not part of the family because she was already promised to the god of death. And when Hazel turns 12, the god of death comes for her and he takes her to this other reality or like parallel dimension, something like that. And Death is revealing to her that she is destined to be the very best healer that this world has ever known. Death is basically leaving her all alone in a house full of books about medicine and human anatomy and stuff like that. So she has to study to become the healer that she was always destined to be. And fast forward again a year later when she turns 13, Death comes again and he is basically offering to her a new home where she would supposedly live alone. And this is where I kind of stopped with the story. I really like the premise of this, but again, I was sidetracked by another book when I was actually reading this, so I just put it on hold and concentrated on something else. But I really want to continue with this one and to finish it hopefully this month, but we'll see how that goes. Something that I really appreciate so far with this book is how Death is portrayed, because more often than not, Death is like a villainous character, and I feel like in this one, based on how he is interacting with Hazel so far, he is just very wise and self-aware of the fact that usually people are regarding him as being villainous, but he's trying to explain to Hazel that it is actually the cyclicity of life and how death is the end of the cycle of life. So I found that very refreshing for this kind of story. The character of Death in this one is reminding me a little bit of the Death that we have met in Olivia Blake's Masters of Death that I have right here. Not that the stories are similar, but just in the way that the character is portrayed. So yeah, I'm really enjoying this one and I'm looking forward to finishing it. Next up, and I think this is a little bit of cheating from my part, this is An Academy for Liars by Alexis Henderson. And when I have actually started reading this one, I was a bit tired and just like stressed from a long day of work. So I didn't really concentrate that much when I started this one, and I was reading, but I was not actually like understanding or processing what I was reading. So because of that, I did not continue with this one, but I am planning to restart it so that I have like a better understanding of what's going on so far in this one. And then the last book that I have started and not yet finished, and I want to finish by the end of the year, is Boulder by Eva Baltasar. I have started this one like I think a month ago, more or less, and I was not really in a literary fiction mood when I started reading this, so I just put it aside. But knowing how much I liked Eva Baltasar's other book that I have read, Permafrost, I am sure that when I will be in the mood for literary fiction, I will be enjoying this one. Also, because of the fact that this is so short, I will just pick it up one day and read it from start to finish when I will feel like it. Yeah, we'll see how that goes by the end of the year. Okay, the next question is, do you have an autumnal book to transition into the end of the year? I didn't really know how to interpret this question, so I have two options for this. First of all, I have A Sorceress Comes to Call by T. Kingfisher. I do not know anything about this book other than the fact that it is based on the Goose Girl, and we are following a character named Cordelia that has like an evil, witchy mother, and her mother is basically trying to marry this very rich guy, and she's low-key abusive towards Cordelia. I don't actually know if this happens during the full season, but once I will read it, I will let you know if this is actually a good pick for this category or not. The next book for this category is Emily Wilde's Map of the Otherlands by Heather Fawcett. I have read the first book in the Emily Wilde series earlier this year and I absolutely loved it. And based on the atmosphere in that book, I felt like I couldn't go wrong with this one for this specific category. I am planning to read Map of the Otherlands in December, but if that doesn't happen, for sure I will be reading it in January so that I am ready for the third book in the series that's coming up very, very soon in 2025. The next question is there a new release you're still waiting for? Yes, there is a new release that is not in my possession so far, just because I don't think it was actually released in the UK yet. And for the rest of the Europe, we are usually getting the UK versions of English books. So that's why I think the pre-order for this one is a bit delayed compared to the US. I am talking about CJ Drew's Don't Let the Forest In. I will put the actual book cover somewhere here. I will figure it out in post. First of all, the cover of this one is absolutely gorgeous, but most importantly, I have heard Carrie from Carrie Can Read recommend this book a couple of months ago when she was doing like a Dark Academia book recommendation or something, and I was immediately drawn by the synopsis of this book. I will actually read it to you so that you understand why I am so excited for this one. So, on Goodreads, it says, once upon a time, Andrew had cut out his heart and given it to this boy, and he was very sure Thomas had no idea that Andrew would do anything for him, protect him, lie for him, kill for him. High school senior Andrew finds refuge in the twisted fairy tales that he writes for the only person who can ground him to reality, Thomas, the boy with perpetually ink-stained hands and hair like autumn leaves. And with his twin sister Dove inexplicably keeping him at a cold distance upon their return to Wickwood Academy, Andrew finds himself leaning on his friend even more. But something strange is going on with Thomas. His abusive parents have mysteriously vanished and he arrives at school with blood on his sleeve. Thomas won't say a word about it and shuts down whenever Andrew tries to ask him questions. Stranger still, Thomas is haunted by something and he seems to have lost interest in his artwork. whimsically macabre sketches of the monsters from Andrew's wicked stories. Desperate to figure out what's wrong with his friend, Andrew follows Thomas to the off-limits forest one night and catches him fighting with nightmarish monsters. Thomas's drawings have come to life and are killing anyone close to him. To make sure no one else dies, the boys battle the monsters every night. But as their obsession with each other grows stronger, so do the monsters, and Andrew begins to fear that the only way to stop the creatures might be to destroy their creator. This sounds absolutely amazing, and as with any Dark Academia books, we have themes of obsession and just like these very unhinged characters. Usually with Dark Academia, I feel like the characters are not that likable or relatable, but these two guys, they seem something a bit different. So this book was released in the US on October 29, and based on the information that I could gather so far, I think this is going to be released in the UK sometime in January. So again, even though this will not be in my hands this year, I had to shout out this book just because I am so excited to get to it eventually. Okay, that being said, the next question is, what are 3 books you want to read before the end of the year? God, I feel like this is a loaded question because I have a lot of books that I want to finish by the end of the year. The first one is, well, you'll see. So the first one is Fourth Wing. I don't know how I have not read this so far. I had a copy on my physical TBR, like the actual tall paperback of this book, and then I sold it on Vinted, and then they came out with this new edition that has some sort of bonus content towards the end of it. It's like an extra chapter or something. My FOMO kicked in and I bought this one again. So like it or not, I will have to actually read this one rather sooner than later because I feel like everyone has read this and liked this. And the reason why I am postponing reading this one is because based on the reviews and based on the synopsis of this one, I fear that I will not enjoy it. But at the end of the day, it's just a book, so who cares, right? I just have to power through and read this. The next one that I want to read before the end of the year is All Fours by Miranda July. I don't know anything about this book, but I was so excited about it when it got released. I bought it very close to release day, and every month I keep telling to myself that I will be reading this one and I never do. So I just have to read it at this point because I feel like Miranda July does unhinged characters very well. So all Fours by Miranda July. And then the last but not least book for this category, the one that I have very high expectations of, is Mistborn or The Final Empire by Brandon Sanderson. This is the first book in the Mistborn trilogy or Mistborn Era 1 trilogy. And I want to get into Mistborn so bad. I feel like this fall to winter transition period is perfect for this kind of epic fantasy. So very excited to actually start reading this one. Again, don't know anything about it. I just want to go in blind and enjoy the story. I don't know how else to explain it, but I just have a feeling that I will be actually enjoying this one. So this is Mistborn by Brandon Sanderson. Okay, the second to last question is there a book you think could still shock you and become your favorite book of the year? I don't know if any of these books will shock me. Fourth Wing, for example, I know it's the favorite of a lot of people, but because it is hyped so much and because I have these very high expectations from this book, I think I will just end up being slightly disappointed no matter how much I will like it. The only one that I could see like really surprising me is Mistborn by Brandon Sanderson, because even though this is so hyped up, I don't really know what to expect from it. So I guess we'll wait and see how this turns out. And then the final question. Have you already started making reading plans for 2025? I don't really have reading plans, but the main things that I want to do in 2025, definitely reading more Brandon Sanderson. Earlier this year, I have started with Tress of the Emerald Sea. That was my first Brandon Sanderson book. I really liked it, and now I want want to start Mistborn. And then after I will read Mistborn, depending on how I like it as a series overall, I might just want to start reading The Way of Kings. I know those books are insanely long. So yeah, I'm a bit scared because those books are massive, but I truly do want to start reading The Way of Kings in 2025. Realistically speaking, I will not be able to catch up to all the Cosmere books. And also for 2025, I do want to read just a teensy tiny bit more of nonfiction. And I feel like the best way to do that for me personally is to read either biographies or memoirs or autobiographies, just because this year I have read Julia Fox's Down the Drain, which is an autobiography written by Julia Fox. And I was in complete awe and fascination and adoration for that book. Like, I couldn't wrap my mind around the fact that this is actually nonfiction and it is actually something that's happening to someone's life in our real world. So I do definitely want to read some more biographies. Also, another thing that I want to do in 2025 is reading more literary fiction than I read this year, just because I feel like this year I truly started to appreciate literary fiction so much more. So I have a lot of literary fiction books on my physical TBR that I want to read. I just hope I will be able to read not all of them, but a good chunk of them in 2025. Okay, so that was it for this video. Please comment in the description in the description. No, please comment. What do I usually say? Please let me know in the comments down below what is the one book that you want to read before 2024 is over. Thank you all so much for watching, and I will hopefully see you in the next one. Bye everyone.